you're here. I'm pleased, I really feel your company. Your style, your smile, your pace mentality. Lord, have mercy on me. I was blind, now I can see what a king's supposed to be.
Excuse me, miss. I was in the waiting room when you gave your testimony. And what I realized is that we have an enemy in common. While you were being called to the office again, I was being put out the only home I've ever known. While you were shaking with anxiety and fear over something no one ever wants to hear, I was shaking in dread. Because we all know what happens to little girls that have no home and no one to claim them. I think our souls passed each other by. See, my soul left me a long time ago in a dingy motel room, ripped away by brutal force. It fled, unable to find its way back home.
Historical people, who would you want in your seat and why?
Wow. I guess because I'm different. You know, I'm not really starstruck. And so it would be hard to really pinpoint anybody in particular. First person that just came to my mind, you know, I mean, if I had an opportunity to cut Denzel, you know, I would.
That's a good one.
I'd do that.
That would be a dope conversation.
Exactly.
How important is diversity in your work, considering you grew up in a bilingual, bicultural home?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's very important. I think at this point, just in society, there's just so much diversity. You know, whether it be in language, whether it be in your upbringing, whether it be, you know, in whatever that is. And so I think growing up in, you know, a bilingual household as well as really a bicultural, despite the fact that, you know, my parents are you know, both of Hispanic descent, but growing up in two different cultures of, you know, very traditional values in the home and very different, and sometimes similar values, right, outside of the home, but in different ways, right?
Yeah.
And so
He tests those whom he loves. I pray he continues to love me till my death. I pray he continues testing me and testing me and testing me until I have no questions left. Until I can ingest knowledge and choke on lies and spit out truth with every breath. But you see, until love for what he loves and hate for what he hates is the only thing that's left within my chest. I know that I will constantly fight to love what's right because I was created with a heart that sits slightly to the left. But I'm okay with that. Because I always knew and always know that he knows exactly what is best. You see, he knew that it would only be a matter of time before I would open my eyes and finally realize that I needed to look deep down inside and pull out the divide so that my heart and my mind would collide and learn to work together.
Adrian, and also known as Mama Ran, filling in for the great uh, Willie Strickland. We're here at Forest Hill Library, and this is Ordinary Conversations for Extraordinary People. I don't know what you're doing today, but I hope you sit back and relax because I think you're going to find it very fascinating, our guest that we have today. Today, I have with me one of my ex co-workers who I have sort of tracked his journey, and he might not express a whole lot of critics that he has to to his reputation, but there are a whole lot more that I probably have to pry out of it. But right now, this is Mr. Willie Mumphrey. Y'all give it up for Willie. Willie. You know, he retired from Fort Worth ISD after 35 years of service and 3 years prior in Bell County Cooperative for the Exceptional Children as an itinerant speech and language pathologist. Okay, he also graduated at high school, earned a degree from the University of North Texas and a master's degree administrative certification in education from Texas Woman's University. He served also in the Navy. But we're gonna stop there and sort of discuss his life because I don't want to tell you, I don't want to give everything because it's more to him than just that. Willie, how are you doing today?
Doing quite well, quite wonderful.
Quite well. So you served with Fort Worth ISD for over 35 years.
That's a long time. Yes.
How was that? And now you are retired.
Hallelujah.
Well, as you'll see as we progress through this podcast, that semi-retired. In other words, he retired officially from that. So tell us something about your experience. You've had a lot under your belt, so you were sort of prepared for administrative type work. So how did you start off?
How did I get started? Can I go back home?
Go back home.
Let's
Back
go
home.
back
Let's
home.
let him go back home. And that's probably where I should have started.
I just want to let you know how my parents and my early educators shaped my life. I grew up in a small, unincorporated community called Gastonia. Some people have never heard of it. So
is that in Texas?
Yes, and it was close to Crandall, 3 miles from Crandall. So
Okay.
when people ask me where I'm from, most of the time I would say Crandall, Texas, because at least they recognize that. They didn't recognize Gastonia.
And that's in what direction?
That's south of Dallas, about 20 miles south of Dallas. Going to Crandall, you pass through a place called Sigerville. And that's Sigerville is, I guess, famous for the prison there.
Okay.
So I grew up in, as I stated, in a rural community with my parents, and I had several siblings in my family. And what I liked about growing up in the country, as we call it, the country, with my parents, we had that community spirit. So there was not a lot of families there, but
the population was about how?
Population about 50.
Few. Oh, 50. Okay, that was really a small.
Crandall was larger. Crandall used to support a sign at the time that I was growing up. It says 1001 friendly faces and a few old grouches.
Oh, okay.
That was a sign that you saw coming into Crandall from both directions. But I grew up with several siblings, and as I stated, there was always the community spirit. Once a year, it was common for families to do hog killings, and that was and everyone participated.
Okay. So what was your part in the hog killing?
Well, what I would do, After the hog was killed,
Nice.
and um, um, my parents would make. Uh, they would use the whole hog. You remember those expressions? The whole
They
hog,
they use everything in the hog.
everything. The pig ears, the pig tail, pig feet, pickle pig feet, and then while uh, the killing was part of the process, uh, we would uh, cut the liver, and they would cut the liver and give the children a piece of the liver, and we would take it and stick it on a clothespin, a wire clothespin, and put it over fire and roast it over the fire.
And what?
And that's why the cracklings were being made from the hog skin.
Oh, really? Wait,
Yeah,
from the liver of the
no,
pig?
well,
Oh,
the liver. We take the liver and we would
and that was
cut little
crackling.
pieces, and then they would take the skin of the hog,
Oh, okay, the skin. Okay.
and pig and make cracklings. Then the ham. Uh, we had at that time we had a smokehouse where meat was salted and stored in the smokehouse all year. During uh, the killing would traditionally start around January when it was cold, and our parents would put the meat, uh, the ham, in the um, uh, and salt joel in the smokehouse, and we would eat off it all winter. And other
Wow.
parents in the community would come by sometime and get a piece of the hog, piece of the. Then while we killed it, we made sauces, and they would actually. It was great. This is wonderful sauces. We would pass it out to
So you
our.
made sausages out of all the leftover parts of the pig.
Yeah,
This could have been a podcast in itself. I am so interested in because I've always been. I'm from Alabama, and they
yeah,
said that we were from the country.
yeah.
That's what they referred to it. But what you're telling me is deeper than what I
Well, they would
knew.
take the fat, of the hog, and make lard,
Yeah, I
for
remember
cooking.
lard.
But
Some of the young
they would
folks don't remember that.
also take parts of it to make soap, lye soap.
Oh, oh,
No,
okay,
so there's lots of things. So the killing of the hog was a big thing.
okay, okay, y'all. We're gonna pause for a minute. we're gonna allow Mr. Willie Mumphrey to tell us, give a little glimpse back in his beginning, which is so interesting to me. That could have been a podcast in itself. What it is that he's telling us about his upbringing in some town that I've never heard of. So I'll let him tell you what it is again. With about 50 people, where they used to take the whole hall, and he just making us understand how his rearing was, and taking every part of the hall, which I've always heard, and making it count for something. You didn't let anything go to waste. So
So it was truly an act of, that showed the importance of the community spirit, community coming together and working together.
so this
For
was
the
like a festivity.
for all.
That's really nice, and everybody
It
ate.
was just well like, and we started working at a very early age. I was 7, 8 years old, and we had to go. We would go to the field and pick and chop cotton and stuff like that. And I guess, and
What
yes, and
you?
so I started very early, uh, uh, working in the fields with my parents and my siblings, and it was work, but it was a lot of fun. We'd have fun out,
Picking cotton.
yeah, picking cotton, chopping cotton,
That's an
and stuff like that.
interesting story.
And then as I got a little bit bigger, a little stronger, I started to haul hay. The farmers had to have hay for their cattle and horses, etc. So I did that. But I kind of wanted to talk a little bit about my my parents and how they influenced my life. If I
Okay,
could do that.
that's good.
My mother taught me to read. My mother uh, did not graduate from high school. In fact, she probably left school in maybe the 8th or 9th grade. I can't remember. But what she did for me, I'll always remember and I'll always respect. She taught me uh, how to read, how to pronounce words, and and she listened to me read. Uh, so at an early age. So by the time
Is that preschool or was
we
school
didn't have
available?
we didn't have kindergarten. We started in first grade at the time. And I
Okay,
went to a school called Darty Elementary School. It was in Gastonia, Texas, right outside of Crandall.
and it was an all
It was
colored school.
Yeah, it was
Colored. Okay.
unincorporated community. It was a two-room school,
Okay.
first through the third, and then the fourth through the 8th grade. And so after graduating from that school, children would go to at that time Kaufman, Texas, the school. And later on,
That still wasn't integrated, and I do
it
probably
still
know.
was a segregated school.
Okay, all right.
School was segregated
Okay.
at that time. And then um, uh, we would go from after a period of time, Doherty Elementary School was closed, and we started going to Crandall, and that was in um, um, that was under the direction of a principal and his wife, Mr. C.B. Dewberry, and his wife, Miss Elfanie Dewberry, still living. She's 105
Oh
years
wow,
old, lives in Houston,
that's another
Texas.
story. Oh, that's
Yeah,
great. That's
but
wonderful.
my mother taught me how to pronounce word and how to, in other words, she taught me how to pronounce word uh, phonetically,
Okay.
and from there I got my start. Uh, so by the time I was in the 2nd grade, you know, I was kind of on my own,
Okay.
and from there I think I became a very good student, and then so that's how my mother shaped my life. My father was always there for us, for the family. Like I stated, we had a large family, but my father uh, to me, was one of the greatest Sunday school teachers that
Okay,
I have ever known.
that's good.
He would sit in his chair at night, late at night, and read vociferously, and from hand-me-down books.
Okay,
And mostly he read books that related to the scripture, religious books, and but all types of books. He was a reader, um, and uh, and he was really uh, a great Sunday school teacher. I think one of the greatest that I've ever known. So my teachers, my early teachers, had a great influence on my life, along with my parents. Um, So when I left Doherty Elementary School, we went to Crandall, and I met the gr- the the great duo team of teachers, uh, Mr. Clifton Dewberry and his wife, Miss Elfanie Dewberry. Um, as I stated, she is still living today. She lives in
that
Houston with
is
her son,
wonderful.
who's a lawyer.
Wow.
She's 105 years as we speak right now. Um,
Let's try to get her on.
they're very influential.
That's good.
They had a
That's
very
wonderful.
influence on my life. Um,
So your upbringing, even though things to us might have been antiquated to some of the kids who are listening, hey, you had the best of both ends. Your mother who made sure that you knew how to read, and your father made sure that you were instilled and you knew had a good biblical upbringing, spiritual upbringing. That is a great start.
we
You can
had
ask for
to
better.
walk to we walked to our church, Mount Rose Baptist Church. It was not in the community. It was about 2 miles away that we would walk. We didn't have rides sometime, and it was in a pasture. Mount Rose Baptist Church. Behind the church was a old pond for the cows and horses to drink, and that's
Oh
where I was
wow.
baptized.
Oh wow.
And my early Sunday school teachers was the Ranges. It was a husband-wife team. He was the head deacon, and his wife was a Sunday school teacher. And that's
All
where I got
right.
a lot of my biblical training from her. And my father and I would walk to Sunday school every Sunday morning. And I was laughing because sometimes my other siblings would not go to church with us. Sometimes it would be just my father and myself. And
Oh,
so uh, we were going to field
so you
to
will always stay
by my dad's
dependable
side.
with the.
My dad was my
Okay.
hero,
Oh, that's
and
wonderful.
so we would walk to school, walk to Sunday school many times. Uh, but also in the neighborhood there was a Church of God in Christ church, and we call it at that time we called it the Holiness
Yeah,
Church,
yeah.
and their service was on Thursday. My late brother Don was a guitarist there, and he stayed with that organization for over 50 years until he died, and it was very interesting. My father he loved both churches. He loved the Baptist church and he loved Church of God in Christ, but he was very true to Mount Rose Baptist Church. But on Thursday we would go and uh, as young boys, and we would look in the window and watch the Church of God in Christ people as they sang and
Yeah, they had a little voice.
shouted
Yeah, the
and
excitement in their
and
delivery.
I never will forget there was one the gentleman called he was a Reverend Elder Hill, and he always dressed very nicely. Wore, I think, a patent leather shoes. They were always shining, and it was my hero at the time. I loved the way he sang and he shouted, and that's I think just from you know listening to the hymns in the Baptist church and listening to the upbeat music from
Yeah.
the Church of God in Christ of the Holiness Church. It helped to shape my life as a singer. I'm
Okay.
still a singer. I have a
See, I didn't
quartet.
introduce that part
Yep.
of him to you guys yet. I was gonna bring that in, but he's already told you. So we might have a little special treat for you.
So I was. So I think that shaped me. That helped to shape me. Growing up, my father started a quartet, the Golden
Oh,
Tribe. My father was mixed with Indian,
okay,
and so that's why the tribe came in. We had a quartet called the Golden Tribe. It featured a couple of my brothers, the
okay.
late brothers, they're passed on now, and a couple of friends that in from the community, and we sang and we loved it. So when I
And you
grew
just
up,
had a natural harmony, or was there someone sort of
we had a
directing us?
guitar. The only thing we had to play behind us was a guitar. And
Okay,
a friend of mine at the time played guitar. Um, my dad was a guitar. He played guitar. He played blues. And my brother uh, played guitar. He played some blues, but then he started playing for the Church of God in Christ. Uh, so when I moved to uh, later on in my life, when I moved to uh, um, Fort Worth, I attended Sweet Home Baptist Church, which later split to Greater Sweet Home, and that's here in Forest Hill. So it's an extension of Sweet Home Baptist Church in Stop Six area of
and
Fort Worth.
that's where you are now.
No, that's where
Started. Okay,
so and I moved to Fort Worth after graduated from college. I moved to Fort Worth where I got married in '79, and uh, and of course I started working at. That's when you and I started working at
yeah, we did.
Chiropractic School of
Yeah, we did.
Occupation. That's but at church, I really when I first got there, I just sat in the audience and then some. I'm not sure how it happened, but the director, music director, uh, Sister Joyce Bivens, who was the first lady. Her husband was Minister Roy Bivens,
Okay,
and her daughter, who I think serves on the city council, Gina. I think this is the last year.
okay.
Gina
All right.
and
See how everything ties in.
Melanie Bivens. Melanie is a great singer, songwriter now. I think she lives in the Beaumont, Houston area. But Sister Joyce Bivens helped to shape my music career. She
So
discovered
did they
me.
know that you had that gift?
No, she just, I don't know,
She just
I can't, I'll have to have her
something
to
just
tell me
led
how it
her.
happened. But
Okay.
anyway, I started singing with the young adult choir, and they found out that I could sing, so I started singing
Now he
tenor,
can sing. I
singing
wonder what he.
tenor, and I started singing uh, some solos, and then uh, she had me to start singing with the male chorus, and I sang, but I also played guitar.
So how did you come about learning? Just picking it up from what your daddy
Yeah,
had
my
been doing.
brother, yes,
Okay.
yes. And so,
So how
uh,
did y'all were able to afford the guitars? I don't mean to keep. Y'all were able to
uh,
afford.
yeah,
Okay.
we were able to somehow
Everybody. That's good.
but, so anyway, um, so I started playing and singing with the male chorus along with the 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 young adult choir. Then I did work with the children choir and the senior choir,
Wow.
and so at one point, I think we had one of the premier male choruses in Fort Worth.
Oh.
Um,
Okay.
uh,
All right. You hear that, Berea Baptist
yeah.
Church America?
so
That was good.
so on fourth Sunday, we would sing on fourth Sunday. We would have lots of people that would come from the Fourth ISD, because Lester Bean, who was a Coach Bean, he's a legendary figure in sports. He was a basketball, I think football player, but he was legendary.
Okay.
He's actually in the Texas Hall of Fame. But he was one of the go-to singers for Joyce Biving, and then I was Lester Bean and I, we were the main attraction for the male chorus.
Okay.
So from there, but prior to that, when I left Crandall, uh, uh, Crandall would go to Crandall School, went to the 8th grade, and so I left Crandall and went to Forney, Booker T. Washington, under the direction. It was the principal of L.E. Claiborne. And from there, I started singing in the choir. And Bishop Jesse B. Ransom was one of the pianists. But the music director at the school was William B. Standerford.
Okay.
So from there, I started singing. I sang solo, and then I sang with the choir. So as a soloist, I was able to participate in the OUIL.
Oh, really?
And we would journey to Prairie View for annual
That's when you were in
high school.
high school. Okay.
Ninth grade, ninth and 10th grade.
Okay.
I spent my 9th and 10th grade years at Forney Booker T. Washington. It was at that time school was still segregated,
Okay.
and so I was able to sing. Um, uh, um, and compete on the state level.
Okay.
I came in second place.
Now,
Doing
in your competition, not trying to interrupt you, but so that our Facebook viewers can understand,
Mhm.
when you competed in UIL, was that a segregated audience then, or UIL meaning all different cultures coming together?
It was still
segregated.
School was still segregated at that time,
And the
and
competition was segregated.
yeah.
Okay.
So we
all right.
were at Purview, and the winning song was called "Morning," and the song that I sang, where I came in second place, called "Water Boy," and it goes like this. Can I do it?
Okay. Oh, please do it. That's what I was gonna say. Can you grace us with
Water boy, where are you hiding? If you don't come, go and tell your mommy. There ain't no rock boys that's on this mountain. That ring-a-lang my boy, that ring-a-lang my. Done bust this rock boy from here to Macon, all the way to the jail, boy. Yes, back to the jail. Water boy, where are you hiding? If you don't come, go and tell her your money.
Oh, that's beautiful. That's wonderful. That sounds theatrical. That sounds like you never attempted to be in one of those theatrical theater performances.
So I spent 2 years in Forney, and then the schools were integrated.
Okay.
From there,
The school's integrated. What age was this when the school
I was in
integrated for you?
I was in the 10th grade
10th
when I
grade.
moved
Okay.
back to school in Crandall. It was called Crandall High School. Crandall High
Okay.
School pirate. I'd be a pirate who be you. So I was a
Okay.
Crandall pirate. From there, yeah, let me tell you, at Forney, I was one of the premier students at the school, along with my good friend John Wiley Price. John Wiley
We know him.
a
John
year
Wiley.
behind me. My late brother Claudette Mumprhey, and John,
Okay.
they were in the same grade together. But at 40, I was carrying a grade point average of 98.5.
Okay.
Moved to Crandall to the the integrated school. And frankly, Miss Knox, I didn't know what to expect. I said, "Oh boy, going to this school. How am I going to perform at this school?" Oh, I didn't. So I didn't know what to expect. But we went there and we were received very well. There was no
Really?
fights and nothing. Everything went smoothly. Uh, um, so I did very well. I talked to my. I tell you, I talked to um, Miss Dewberry, who was here about 5 years ago at a funeral, and she was telling me, Willie Mumphrey said, said, when you were up at the school, uh, the principal um, called my husband, Mr. Dewberry, and said that, Dewberry, I got this boy up here named Willie Mumphrey. I said, how do you teach him? Mr. Dewberry said, you give him a book, you put him in a corner, and you leave him alone and let him.
Oh,
So,
that's wonderful.
she still tell that story. So I admired Mr. Dewberry and I admired his wife, and so I went on to finish there as a valedictorian.
At this integrated high school
Yeah,
during that time.
with a grade point
That's
average,
another story in itself, y'all.
with a
That's
grade
wonderful.
point average of 96 point
That's
uh,
wonderful.
96.63, and my closest competitor,
Was John Wiley?
no,
No.
John Wiley was in 20.
Okay, I
I
got you.
moved to Crandall.
Okay,
He grew
all
up in
right.
Crandall. And my closest competitor was a Caucasian young lady, and she was at 96.50. So I beat her by 0.13 of a point.
All right,
So,
even back then. That's
so from there, I went on uh, uh, to college. I started college at Prairie View, and my parents, they just didn't have any money. And even though I had a scholarship, it just didn't cover, and it should have,
yeah.
but because my Miss Dewberry told me, you should have had a full ride to wherever you wanted to go, but it just didn't cover everything that I needed to cover. My parents had no money because
Okay.
So, uh, anyway, I left there. I left and I started working, but I always knew that I was going to go to college. I knew that.
Okay.
And so I worked for a little while, Sears, Roebuck, and then I got drafted into the Army at that time.
Okay.
The draft was
That's right.
very
Yeah.
small.
I remember the draft.
So my dad was a Navy person,
Okay.
so I didn't want to go to the Army.
All right.
So I went down to the draft station in Dallas. One side of the street was the Army, the other side was the Navy.
Oh wow.
And I just ignored my draft papers and went over to the Navy.
Okay.
And I joined the Navy, where I stayed for
Okay.
3 years, 9 months, and 11 days, 4 years.
Okay.
And as I said earlier, I was a disbursing clerk. The disbursing clerk is a finance clerk, so we took care of pay records. But initially, I was just a seaman.
And that was
Seaman
great
apprentice.
responsibility.
Seaman
taking
apprentice, and so so I was a seaman apprentice. My first ship, my first duty station, was the USS Manatee. It was a tanker. It was a work ship,
Okay.
and departed from San Diego. I did my basic training in San Diego, Camp Nimitz. Right across our camp was the Marine camp, Camp Lejeune. And so on the ship, at that time, the Vietnam War was kind of going on.
Oh
And
yeah.
so my first orders was to the Philippines.
Okay.
As I said, I was on a work ship, and we supplied um, food and energy, oil to other ships. So my job when I first got on was to man, I never forget, Station 8. And we had these big, large uh, uh, um, hoses that went from one ship to the next.
Okay.
And we had to keep it steady because the oil was pumping from one ship to the other.
Okay.
We also carried supplies, food and supplies, and mail and stuff to other ships too. And so that was very interesting. Uh, so, I left San Diego and then we journeyed to Hawaii, stopped over at the Midway Islands of Guam, and from there we went to uh, the coast of Vietnam, going to the Philippines, and that's where we did our maneuvers. And some of the duty stations that I was able to to stop at was um, Nagasaki, Japan, Yokosuka, Japan, Taiwan, and Hong Kong, and uh, I was able to visit Confucius Temple
Okay.
in Hong Kong, and the floating restaurant at Aberdeen, which is attended by many local celebrities. It closed in 2020 because of the pandemic, and so it was, and it capsized. It was a floating restaurant, capsized
Oh,
in
it just
2000.
recently closed.
It
This
capsized.
pandemic.
This pandemic. It
Okay.
capsized in 2022. They were
Okay.
trying to take it out, and so that's the end of the floating restaurant at Aberdeen. So,
That's
but
good.
I was so I did that tour of duty, and where I was able to obtain my Vietnam medal for being in that
Oh,
area.
yeah. A
Yeah,
medal.
so Vietnam Service Medal.
That's wonderful.
So that was my first. They call it the Westpac tour,
Okay.
and from there I came back to the to the states, back to San Diego, and I went to what is called DK, Disbursing Clerk A School, where I learned to take care of payroll. So I was a finance clerk. I learned to do that. So after graduating from there, we call all the guys together, and they calling out different places that you would, your next duty station. And some guys got nuclear tenders. I mean, it's a tender. Some guys got aircraft carriers, helicopter carriers, destroyer tenders, etc. And I think I was very fortunate to be able to get stationed on a nuclear submarine tender in Rota, Spain, called the USS Holland,
Wow.
where I was able to stay for 2.5 years. I was stationed at.
Still as a payroll clerk.
I was I went there as a payroll clerk.
Okay.
And I uh, I was stationed at a place called Rota, Spain. It's a Navy base there in Rota.
Okay.
And it was right outside of Puerto de Santa Maria.
Okay.
Puerto de Santa Maria is the place where Columbus sailed the ship to the New World, supposedly to America, but he actually went to somewhere else. We know
the
that's
real
the
history.
story.
We learned the
So,
history.
so from there, um, um, that station I was on, even though I was on the tender,
Mm-hmm.
submarine tender, where we paid our personnel on the ship. We would go to the base to pick up money. We'd pay personnel on the ship, and then conventional submarine would come along our side, and nuclear submarine tenders would come along our side. And sometimes we would go down in the submarine and pay the guys. Sometimes we would pay them from our office on the ship. And we very seldom would go out. We would go out maybe 2 or 3 days on maneuver, then we would come back in. So there I had my own car, I had my own apartment, and from there I did
the
Navy.
Navy. I'm sorry.
And so I was able to do a lot of traveling in the interior. Many of the guys would kind of stay right there in the city and go to the local bars and stuff to have fun. But I was able to purchase a car from one of my coworkers who was from the St. Thomas Virgin Island, And so me and I had two friends. I had an apartment there, and they lived with me. And so so on the weekend we would go in my little car. It was called Teasing Blues. The car was a Simca. You guys probably never heard of it. And
No,
on the
never heard of
weekend
it.
we would go down the coast of Spain called Costa del Sol, which means the coast of the sun. And we
Okay.
would go down to places like Marbella, Torremolinos, down by the Rock of Gibraltar,
Okay. I
and
heard of it.
we'd be right there on the borders of Morocco. And I would go to places like Sevilla, and I was it's kind of a history buff, and so the churches and the cathedral there were magnificent. So I enjoyed doing that, visiting those, and
That's
just
wonderful.
sightseeing, and taking
That's
pictures and
wonderful. But it
stuff
was a
like
lot of
that.
responsibility being the
Yeah.
finance clerk. You had to make sure. Did you get in a lot of trouble, or did you get anyone contesting their finances? Or
No, we would we would we would go to the base on payday, and we paid every 2 weeks. Unlike the other branches of the service, I think paid once a month. We paid every 2 weeks, and and then we would after paying everyone, we paid cash, and then
oh, really?
we paid cash.
That's
And the
smart
only one
of
who would
you.
get check was the officers.
Okay.
We would pay them if they wanted cash. We pay cash. If they wanted check, we pay cash checks. And so you're asking about people getting in trouble. Well, sometimes the guys would get themselves in trouble. They would go on the base. They would get paid on Friday. They would go on the base and they would splurge, spend that. No, they
Yeah,
spend the money,
especially with the cash.
and then come back the next week and say, Willie, can I get special pay? And we allowed special pay.
That is
I said,
wonderful.
yeah, fill out a paycheck. I give it to the dispersing officer, Officer Appleby, and he would okay it, and would so they would get an advance of their salary
Oh, that's
for the,
good.
and so that was
So they got a lot less the next time.
yeah, they would
But they were able to,
whatever they borrowed
yeah,
in
that's
advance
good.
would come out kind of the pay, but
That the,
some of the guys. So I was on the ship. I was very good friends with the yeomans, which was like secretaries,
okay.
the hospital corpsmen, postal clerk. Uh, Everyone on the ship were very good friends with the payroll people.
Oh
So
yeah, I can imagine. That's the person to
and
be friendly with.
so when I first got on, I had to being a seaman recruit, I had to work in the everyone had to do it called mess duty. They had to work in the kitchen, and that was a lot of fun. We made donuts, we made pies,
Oh, you cook too.
and we had we had
That's
the
good.
best of food. We had the best of food.
Okay.
Uh, and I forgot to tell you, on the first ship I was on, the USS Manatee. Sometime out at sea, uh, on a Friday, we would have what we would do steak and lobster on the fantail.
Oh,
They
you
would
had your
cook it,
choices of the
and then we'll do
top of the line.
skeet shoot on the fantail of the ship.
Okay.
But getting back to the USS Holland in Rota, Spain, that was wonderful duty. There, there I met uh, a chaplain, Sam Baez, who was
Okay.
the first cousin of Joan Baez.
Oh, okay.
I don't know.
Oh, that's
Many of you
good.
older people may know Joan Baez. Some of you young people probably never heard of her.
Oh
In
yeah.
the 60s and 70s, she was one of the
You read a Joan Baez.
greatest folk singers. Put her up. She was one of the greatest folk singers around.
Okay.
And her, like I said, her first cousin was Sam Baez. He just passed away about a year ago. He arranged for us to take a trip. Um, uh, like I said, I was in Rota, Spain, so we took a trip up to Barcelona and Madrid. Left out of Spain and went through France and Switzerland, and from there we went to Germany, no, Austria, and I saw the castle where they filmed The Sound of Music, and
Okay.
from there I went over to Munich, Germany, but we were journeying to uh, Berchtesgaden, Germany, to Hitler's retreat. And
Oh,
yeah, so we stayed in the
that was
barracks, Hitler's
interesting.
barracks, there. We were gone for almost 2 weeks. We stayed in the barracks, Hitler's barracks. And on one of the mornings, uh, some of uh, the participants were able to go up to the eagle's nest.
Okay.
I didn't do that. I didn't get up early enough, and I didn't want to walk up. So, but we did stay in the barracks there, and so
So that's a tourist spot right now, presently, that
that's
you
just
could go
got to be.
in.
Oh yeah. It was
That's
then and to us
interesting.
and there. Yeah,
That's
yeah.
interesting.
Uh, so uh, 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 in Rhoda, I was able um to meet many friends there and that came there, and so when I took leave of absence, I took a leave over in Spain also while I was on the ship. My brother was in Erlangen, Germany. He was in the army,
Okay.
so I took leave to go and visit him,
Okay.
and from there I stayed with him for a few days. From there, I went to London, England. I had some friends there, and uh, so I stayed in the hotel the first night. Then I stayed with some friends of mine. They had a 8-room uh, apartment. There was an apartment, or what do you call it? Um,
You met a lot of friends along that journey. That's
yeah,
wonderful.
and so they took me in, and so I was able to tour London, and then when I left there, I came back to Rhoda, to my ship, and and uh, and I was able to, uh, you know, at that time it was time to come home. I've stayed over there 2.5 years, so I was really ready to get
Ready to
home,
get
get back
home.
home to see my mom and my dad. They were still uh, living in Crandall, so to say, and later on they moved to Dallas. So I thank the Lord that I was able to do that
Oh yeah,
and
you that's a
see all
wonderful
parts of the world. And
journey. Yeah.
at one point, Lady Knox, at one point, I went to more countries than I did states. States,
Okay, that's
so
wonderful.
it's all
That's
by the grace of God.
I know. That's what brought you and made you whole and complete. And then what made you venture from there? What made you build an interest in education? I mean, how did you get
Uh,
a speech therapist?
so
Oh, cause your mother.
no.
Oh,
I tell you, when I say that I always knew I was going to go to college. So my breakthrough was going to the Navy,
okay.
going to
Yeah,
service.
that's
So
right.
they
That's
being able to on the GI Bill. So I was able to live with my sister in Dallas, and attended a junior college,
okay.
El Centro, Mountain View, and then from there I ventured to University of North Texas. At that time, it's called North Texas State. Um, and so when I got there, I was uh, not sure what I wanted to be. Then I remembered one of my friend girls from high school said, "Willie, why don't you be a speech therapist?"
And you said,
I didn't even know
hey,
what that
that's
was.
it.
So
That's
when I
it.
got there, they said, "Well, what you want to be?" I think I'll be a speech therapist.
Okay.
And so that's how I got into for Linda Moore. She
That's
lives in
good.
Los Angeles right now, but she told me to be a speech. So from there, I got my start after graduating, got my start in education,
Okay.
and I worked in after graduating. Uh, after my after graduating, I moved to. Uh, I went to Waco to do my first interview.
Okay.
Sharon Miles out of Bartlett, Texas, and she hired me on the spot. Right on the
Okay.
spot.
All right.
So from there, I moved to Temple. That was my base. I moved to Temple, and I was an itinerant speech therapist, and I worked for the Bartlett Cooperative for Exceptional Children as a speech therapist,
Okay.
itinerant speech therapist. And so the home base was in Bartlett, Texas, and the schools that I served was Bartlett, Holland, Texas, Salado, Academy, Troy, and a little place called Rogers. Rogers is famous for a blues singer by the name of Joe Tex,
Okay.
who recorded the song
Joe
Skinny
Tex.
Legs, Skinny Legs. You know, maybe did that.
Yeah, I remember Joe
Yeah.
Tex.
So I spent uh, 3 years, 75 through 78 there, and it was a lot of fun. You know, I met a lot of people there in Central Texas. Love Central Texas, but it was being a young single person, a little slow. And from there, I met my wife, Brenda. She was an occupational therapist.
Okay.
So we met there in Holland and got to know each other. And so I moved to Fort Worth and interviewed with Dorothy Price. And she said, "Well, Willie, I got a school for you. Hire me right on the spot." And from there,
that was Kirkpatrick.
That was Kirkpatrick,
Okay.
and that's where I met Miss Knox.
Yeah, that's where he met.
And Miss Hunter and Miss Cater and the whole Kirkpatrick gang. Miss
well, they do.
Charmian Poke, who's
I have
established the King Kid. The King's
she
kids.
did. Charmian
And we just had just a great core of teachers there.
Yeah. And then we all
Kirkpatrick
they closed down that institution.
School of Occupation. And then was
when you moved, did you move to focus on your vision as an administrator, or you?
So when I left there, when they closed that down, remember, when it closed that down, I became a therapist at Dunbar High School, Polytechnic High School, William James Middle School.
We should do something on This Is Your Life, because you have a great history. I know we're sort of going into a closing time. I want to. He's done so much. We need a part 2 for him. But okay, then you were administrator at.
And then I was a speech therapist then, and then I went back to school and got my administrative certification from Texas Woman's University.
Okay.
And I got my administrative certification there also. And
was Howling Beer one of your first schools?
No, my first school as administrator was Mitchell Boulevard.
Okay.
I worked with the principal there was Beverly Oaks, the late Beverly Oaks. And from that school, I moved to Sunrise Elementary School in the heart of Stop 6.
Okay.
And then I served at the David K. Sellers as administrator, assistant principal with the principal, Gladys Jenkins, wonderful person. And then
I just happened to one day walk in Harleen Beale and saw you. I said, Willie, why are you here? That's when I saw you. I didn't even know you were working as an administrator, but you ultimately became the principal.
Yeah, well, I worked at on the Pat Scott at Harleyville. That's what I meant. But I worked with Dr. Vera Brooks at I Am Terrell.
Okay.
And that's how I got my start as from
and
there.
I know we calling out names for those people who out there who don't know Harley. I mean, I Am Terrell was one of the original schools for.
It was a high school at the time.
High school.
Yeah.
For in this area for all people of color.
Yeah,
or
but
just
later
black
on,
people.
Yeah,
I don't know.
Later on, it opened up as an elementary school.
Okay.
And the principal was Dr. Vera Brooks.
Okay.
Wonderful.
All right.
And I was her assistant principal for 3 years.
Okay.
And the Butler Housing Project was where the kids came
that
from.
was housing project right next to
and it was an acceptable
but it served this community.
Yeah, it was an acceptable school at the time, but it was an awesome experience working there because we had an awesome group of teachers we went from acceptable to exemplary school. When we
Wow.
became an exemplary
Hey,
school,
they went from
Mr.
acceptable
Robert
to
Ray,
exemplary.
Mr.
That's
Robert
good.
Ray said that I was
That took
ready.
a collaborative
Yep,
effort to make that happen.
those young people working together. Mr. Robert Ray Howard said, "Willie, I think you're ready to be principal." From there, I became
That's
the
good.
principal at Mount I. Logan Elementary School. So
Okay, you've been really around.
that's my
That
that's it.
is wonderful. Now, I was going to ask you to contrast the difference between that era and this time. Could you pull off the same thing? You went from, to exemplary school. That's wonderful. That's what we all are striving for, y'all, to
It
pull these
took
test scores up.
some dedicated young people. I mean, it didn't have to be
Young
young people.
staff,
We had a young set from teachers
young staff.
from Mississippi, Arkansas, Oklahoma. They were young teachers,
Really
young dedicated teachers.
dedicated,
We had
y'all.
some of all, but they identified with the kids. They spent a lot of time with
Oh,
them
that's
at
good.
school and at home and on trips and things.
That's right.
It was just a lot, an outpouring of love for children.
You have
And
to
that's what
love
it
it.
took.
You have to love
They
it
loved it, and the
to
kids loved
dedicate
them.
yourself and not count
It was
every.
quite an experience
That's
working at
wonderful.
Amtero.
That's great. Just your journey in life and all the accolades that are associated with it. You have been truly blessed, and maybe he'll possibly bless us with some of the things. He's not only doing that. He's not only an administrator and all those other things. Been in the service. Thank you for your service. I think that's still appropriate, but he's a renowned. He doesn't deem himself as one musician. He sort of, I guess he picked up some of the gifts that his father had, and he uses them well. When I go to different performances, they're booked, they're in demand, and I don't know if he'll grace us with one of his songs, but he's uh to be a gifted guitarist. So
I'm,
maybe he will. There are some other things behind his belt, but we're gonna have to write a book about him and ask you guys to get that book and read all other things. But you have a very interesting history, and I really do applaud you, Paul. But I was wondering, he really plays well, and he has a. Tell us about how you transition. I know our time is winding up, but
I
can you,
think
in a few words, tell us how you formed a band here and when did it start? You formed a band in Fort Worth, or had you done it somewhere else? And
uh, I was working with there's a group of a family here called the Cyphos, and
I think I heard of them too.
it's a family group, and so they uh, uh, we got together and formed a group called the Mighty Sons of God, and it was a quartet group, and so they knew me from church, and we just kind of got together and formed the group, and there was some younger guys, some nephews of the Cyphos, the older Cyphos, and they eventually, they just kind of went their way because they were young and
Okay.
they were not totally immersed into gospel music. So because they were youngsters, they wouldn't want to do their thing. And so from there, I formed a group of guys, and we call ourselves the Men of Distinction.
Men
And
of Distinction, y'all remember
yes,
that?
so and that's the name of the group that I perform for now as the lead guitarist and lead vocalist, and we have a rhythm guitar player, a trumpet player. You know,
Okay.
your man,
Yeah.
and we
A
have a
friend of mine is
bass
struggling.
player, and now I have two keyboard players.
That's
Rem
wonderful.
Willis Payton and Rem James Kelton. They both play for churches. I play for a church. We all and my bass player. We all play for churches
So that's your
in there.
grassroots
Yeah,
church,
yeah.
so that's
I'm a member of Faith. Well, I'm not a member, but I play for Faith Fellowship Baptist Church in Grand Prairie,
okay.
and
All right.
so
That's
as one of
wonderful.
the musicians there. So
So I know we're running out of time. There usually are some questions that are sent in by some of our listening audience. I don't have those yet, but I was wondering if you would be able to grace us. This group is in high demand, y'all. So he might grace us with just a snippet of what his gift is,
Um,
and I just enjoy it so much. We're gonna write a book about. Mumprhey has a whole lot. I didn't realize there was so much under your belt that you had accomplished. I'm gonna start writing a book. I always wanted to be an artist, so I write a book and y'all can read about it. But right now we're gonna be graced with
now,
just something that he could show you that if you want him now, he's gonna later come and tell us how you can possibly find him and book them if you like what you hear, and I think you might.
well, I'll just. This is a song that I, one of the gentlemen in my group is an ex-police officer named James, and he performed this song for my group. And so I have the words here because I don't know the song like he does. I just know a little of it. But the song is by a group out of Mississippi, the
Okay.
William Brothers. You probably
Oh
heard of
yeah, William Brothers. I've heard of.
and so this is typical of some of the songs that we do as a group. Heartaches, I had my share, heartache, but I'm still here. Trouble, I've had my share of trouble, but I'm still here. Bruises, I've taken my lumps and bruises, but I'm still here. Loneliness, I've had my share of loneliness, but I'm still here. Through it all, I made it through another day journey, but I'm still here. Yeah, I made it through another day's journey, but I'm still here.
Oh, all right, that's good. Oh, we don't want you to stop. Oh, okay, we know we have to stop. We have to end this. If you want some more of that, okay. Now you don't stop. No. You done started something. Go on, finish.
That's Lou Williams.
Go on, finish. You got to give us a little more of that one. Oh, that's good.
So I was thinking. I'm gonna stop right there.
Oh, you can't tease us. You can't tease us. We trying to build our audience. You can't tease these people.
That's what the men of distinction.
Oh, that's what the men of distinction.
Well, I mean that's the quartet genre. Yeah, that's part of it.
That's important part. That's part. If they hear that, that's wonderful. That's wonderful, Willie. We have really enjoyed just your information, just your life story. We've enjoyed it all. If you want to play some more and play us on out of here, we'll be thankful. What we're doing, y'all, this is Forest Hill Ordinary Conversations for Extraordinary People. We are here every Wednesday at 12 o'clock. Tell somebody. Next week, we're going to have someone who's also a principal, and he was my ex-boss, but he can tell you a whole lot of stories that are going on in contrast what happened during his era as his reign as opposed to what's going on now. So we have a lot of interesting guests, and I want you to make sure you tell people, because we're going to let you know about some things that we have to work on and join together. Whatever we're going through, we'll make it as long as we work this together. We have to stay together. Y'all give it up for with Sir Willie Mumphrey, his life story. We're gonna get somebody to write that book about his life story.
Sometimes discouraged,
Thank you.
but not defeated. Cast down, but not destroyed. There are times I don't understand, but I believe it's turning around for me.
All right. Take her on out, Willie. Take her on out. We like this. We can sit here and listen to them all day, but I know it's the end, y'all. Thank you, and we will see you next week.